All right. So good afternoon. And thank you for joining us today for another fantastic session of We Table It. And this afternoon, we're going to be having our coffee chatter. And what that is 1 hour talking about an interesting issue, an issue that affects many people in different areas of their life. And we'll just be sharing our different insights, getting opinions, and really giving life to this topic. So today our topic is violence against men, and I am joined by my fantastic co-hosts, Osaro and Eno, and also joined today by our very special guest, Osaze. And we also have Boniface, who is here to offer our support. So thank you for being here, our team. Thank you to our guests, and welcome to everybody. So I will ask that as you listen to us today, be free to share any questions, any insights, any comments that you have in the comment section. Anything that you'd like us to talk about or address, please share in the comment section as well. And I will now just do a quick handover to Eno, who is graciously moderating our session this afternoon. Good afternoon, Eno. Sorry, I know you're on mute, so we need you to unmute so we can hear you.
Can you hear me now, Valerie?
Yes, loud and clear.
All right. Thank you, everyone. You're welcome once again to this live on We Table It Coffee Chatter. We'll be discussing once again about violence against men. We will be having a debate, and we want you to generously contribute to this conversation via the comment section. And as you come in, please share. Just before I go ahead to introduce every one of us who is live with you on this broadcast, I just want you to do us a quick favor to share this broadcast on your pages. Invite your friends, invite one, invite all to be a part of this. We want to see how we can positively impact the lives of every one of you who are watching us. Thank you once again for coming. With me on this live is Dr. Osaro and Valerie Siganga. We have Boniface and we have Osaze Yekepolo. They will be here discussing the topic, violence against men. We had this topic prior to this time. I think it was about 2 weeks ago we discussed this, but we didn't really go in depth the conversation. Today we will be touching it and we'll be having a debate on it. And we are hopeful that at the end of if you are having any situation of violence, be you the message on our inbox, will be there to give you the support that you need. Once again, you are welcome to this live broadcast. And I will be having the ones who will be debating today. We are having Valerie and we are having Iyeke Polo. Valerie, please, over to you.
Oh, thank you, Eno. Thank you for that fantastic introduction. And to my debatee, thank you. I'd ask you if you can come on camera and let us know a little bit, just an idea
Can you
of
all
what you
hear me
from our chat today.
Okay, hi, can everybody hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Loud and clear.
Okay, hi.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes. So I've been introduced already. As I said, my name is Usaze Iholo. Let me just say something. I know this is live, and I won't say I'm unfortunate. I'll say I'm opportune to take up the unpopular point. So I'm naturally expecting some people to bash and all, but well, that's life. We must see both sides of the equation. So I'm glad to be here. Yeah.
Ah, great. Thank you for that. I'm wondering what the unpopular point is. So I'm really looking forward to hearing your point of view. Well, why this topic? Oh my goodness. I think not only is this a topic that touches on an African experience, but also an international experience, men in general, and what men are going through in their relationships when it comes to violence. And also how it is that men react and respond to experiencing violence. That's really what brought us into the topic. And this is after interaction with different men who have been in violent relationships and situations, and just seeing how it is that they were coping. And so maybe the first thing we can discuss is let's look a little bit at our traditional gender roles in a relationship where there's the man and the woman. And I think in the traditional gender roles, there are some expectations that we have on men in terms of being the head of the household or leading the family. So the question is, when we look at these traditional roles and the expectations, what are your thoughts on how they impact the willingness of men to actually speak out about domestic violence when they're experiencing it?
Okay. Thanks for that. Now, I'll use the Nigerian setting. I'm Nigerian, yeah, born, bred, and still living in Nigeria, yeah. In Nigeria, I'll take when I was a child. The traditional role of a man we were taught in school and we saw was to provide. Now, he provided, he guided, he advised, he generally steered the home. And the woman was, the traditional role was to cook, raise the kids, and support the man. Yeah. Now, it was further drilled into us from our books. We say there was this one then that used to say Ali and Simbi. Ali's a boy. He goes to school in Calabar. You know, you see a picture of the daddy bringing in the chicken and the mommy making the rice. So it was an established thing that yes, the man provides. So a man is natural. We were brought up to see ourselves as providers. It's hammered into us even in church, in our religious organizations. However, a man's job to provide is beset by various challenges. Yeah, the economy, the toughness of the environment we live in, and it usually gets to them. I'll say I never saw my father cry growing up, but I would also say that I could see days that he would come home, he would curtail it. So my question at the end of on this is, after every, he will meet challenges there, here and there. There's nobody really to talk to. There's nobody to run to. A man bottles all this up. How long will he keep bottling it up? Yeah, that's the fundamental issue. Now let's bring it now to today. I'm thankfully a father, and the economy when I was growing up is 10 times worse now. Today it is difficult. It is more difficult to make ends meet, but you must make ends meet. And now it is even worse because the traditional roles are now being broken down. So a man is beset with more pressure to fit in, to be seen as being useful, because there is the view that, oh, if what a man can do, yeah, a woman can do better. So he is already worried about the fact that his value or his place can be taken over at any time. So there's increased pressure, and the situation, the opportunity to even show he has some value is being eroded every day as we speak. Again, it is, thankfully things are changing, because I never, like I said, I never saw my dad complain to anybody. These days, things are, as I said, things are changing. There are more support groups and all, but it is still not easy, because you find it difficult to open up to anybody about your problems. One, you tell yourself, oh, I don't want to be seen as a burden because everybody has their own problems. Yeah. Two, in Nigeria, it is not an easy thing to say you want to go for therapy. It's very, it's weird. Nobody goes for therapy. Everybody will look at you like, okay, is something wrong with you? So, yes, there are more, how will I put it, more opportunities to vent out, but it is still difficult to assess. It is still difficult to use them because the traditional ways still hold fast. So in all this, again, the pressure accumulates, and how does a man vent? He, crying again is also seen as a sign of weakness. So these are part of the issues we face as men. Yeah.
Oh, goodness, I hear you. Um, I hear you when you talk about those issues that you face as men, especially the challenge of speaking forward. And maybe how I can interject here is to share with you my experience as a woman, not to sort of maybe see where for some women they end up resorting to violence against their men. So I think in our traditional roles, definitely there is a disconnect. And in the African context, a lot of the disconnect comes up from expectations. So I, as a woman, my expectation would be I am married to a man. He is going to be the provider. He's going to take care of me, take care of my children, take care of my needs, from my physical needs, my financial needs, my emotional needs, the family. That's his role. He's supposed to provide, pay for the house.
Then you want Jesus. It's like you guys will marry Jesus.
No, we're marrying
Because
a man because we have, as we grow up, we're told men are supposed to do these things. As the woman, we're supposed to be loving, take care of our home, and our money is our money. Your money is our money.
it's our
It's,
money. God
it
bless you.
sounds, when I'm saying it out loud, it might not sound reasonable, but it's the reality. A lot of us have these expectations. And in my experience, even in being in a relationship, I remember being advised, make sure you take care of your own needs, because the man could just disappear and leave you in a bad state. So as women, we have grown up, my generation has grown up knowing, yes, you're supposed to be in a union, but at the same time, watch your back. This union looks stable, but it's not what you might expect.
True.
And I
Okay. Sorry, may I come in?
Yes,
Just give me a
please.
second. Now, you see, the reason why your generation is like this is because the mothers of your generation
Hmm.
went through, would I say, went through a hard time. So naturally, they brought up the next generation to be defensive.
Agreed.
But they are forgetting one thing. They are forgetting one thing. There is a cause and an effect. There's a cause and effect. Why was their generation's men behave, if I may use that word, behaving that way? It was because these were men that came from a time of again, we have to take it way, way back. Pre-colonialist Nigeria, or in pre-colonial times.
Yeah.
We were not seeing this kind of things because there was set culture. Oh, everybody knew their roles. You do this, you do that. You can't just go around and behave, weirdly, because there were set rules. Then, in quote, the white man came with their culture, changed the whole system, the economy, the way of living changed. People had to start figuring out where they stood. So their generation were the ones that were now trained, unfortunately, in the white man's ways, saw themselves as superior. So they treated their own wives as, what do you know? I mean, I went to school, I did this, I did that. But our generation is not like that. We saw that and we want to change. However, it's going to be difficult, very, very difficult to happen, because naturally women are on the defensive that, oh, I'm out for me, take care of me. But that's not how it should be. It should be a partnership. When one's weakness, where one is weak, the other is strong. When the other is weak, So you see a man battling, okay, he's battling the world, he's battling the economy. Then he's coming home to meet a private battle, which is silent and even more deadly, because the woman is watchful. Okay, he wants to do this. I will do this to protect myself. So where is he safe?
So, I mean, yes, as the men, yes, you'll go through some frustration. I was about to say, for now, it seems like it's a very real burden that men go through. And I think for the women, and it's so interesting you talk about generational gaps, because one of the things we were looking at when we were talking about this topic is which women are these that are beating their men so violently? And how old are these women? Which generation are they coming from? And I think there's a blend when it comes to, sort of the millennials going younger. Part of that is when we have like this expectation that I mentioned on our men, and as a man, it becomes challenging for you to keep up with all my ever-growing needs. I'm also exposed to things online in the world of people, women who have all these things or present like they're getting all these things. Everyone's looking for that high-value man who's going to really take care of her, sugar daddies and all of that. And then as the man, you're in a space where you're unable to. So my frustration comes from an expectation that can't be met. And we have, in my opinion, there's sort of two sides to this. There's a side where the same mothers who brought up the girls to be independent, self-sufficient, but you still have to get married and be in a union, also brought up the boys, now the men. And the men were brought up to told, do not beat women, because our mothers went through whatever it was they went through. So boys are taught, whatever happens, whatever she does, do not beat her. Do not be violent towards her.
True.
And yes, and then so we have men who have been brought up not to be violent, and we have women who have expectations that exceed the traditional norm. And so when we now bring in these two roles, the traditional role of the man and then the woman, so here I am as the woman coming with all my needs, I'm frustrating you. You can't do anything. You can only sit and listen and take it in and have no one to talk to as the man. And when my frustration is boiling point, then there are those women who now resort to violence. And because of the nature, I think, of how African men are supposed to really stand out as the head of the household, then where do you go? How do you start explaining to someone that my wife wanted a handbag? I didn't have the money, so she hit me, you know. And
Yeah,
then if you hit her back, all women in society come for you. How could you? Who are
definitely.
you? Yes. But as the man, when she's violent towards you, there's no rallying group of people coming to the woman to ask her, how could you, what were you thinking? You do not do this. So I think that's a little bit about why we're seeing a rise in this happening in terms of from the traditional point of view.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, that's one point. And I want to take something you said, social media.
Mm.
The social media space has caused problems and will keep causing problems. People are finding it increasingly difficult to differentiate reality from make believe. So we are seeing a lot of people believing, like you said, that that life they see on Instagram, Twitter, and all is real, forgetting that it is not. It cannot be. I mean, it is made believe. A video of 5 minutes takes like 3 hours to prepare and all. So, like you said, but there is even something that is even worse. Yes, men go through physical abuse, but there's this psychological one, and that's even worse and more sinister. How do I mean? Now, biologically, men have more testosterone by default. What does that give you? It gives you a boost. It sharpens your senses, makes you a little bit more um, quicker to respond, right? To stress, to problems. So that's why when a gun goes off, certain men are built to turn and find out, hey, what's going on here, and walk towards the danger rather than away from it. Yeah, good.
Mhm.
So by default, now women are more emotional. Even biologically, it said women mature faster than men. Yeah. So a woman of my age would be emotionally more mature than I am. So it is coming out that a lot of women also have figured out how to push buttons. So normally, like you said, men are raised, please don't hit women. I personally warn my son, I have a boy, don't try that. So he is brought up with that. Unfortunately, a lot of women also have realized that, okay, we have a safety net. So what do? They begin to twist the knives. Oh, they do stuff that, they know would, like on a normal day, they know this thing I'm doing is really, really annoying. But, oh, I have a safety net. He won't hit me. He cannot hit me. And it is continuing. So right now, I'm seeing an increase in men who are being subjected to torture at home, in the office, in the workplace, everywhere. But they can't do anything because, like we said, the society is watching you. So a lot of the abuse men face is actually not physical anymore. It's more of a psychological nature. Because a woman going through, let me give another scenario. A woman going through an abusive relationship could walk out with her head held high and say, oh yes, this is what I went through, yeah, and be supported, right?
Mm.
A man going through the same thing will find it difficult to walk out most of the time, unless he's a bad man, in quotes. He will find it very, very difficult to work out because you invest in a relationship. Yes, like I said, that's why I said I'm going to have your unpopular opinion today. Most of the time, men invest in relationships. That's why when we say okay, we are married, we know that, or you are dating someone, that's your babe, that's your wife. You mentally shut yourself out. You're not telling him, oh, okay, he's having issues at home. he's being subjected to this. Can't you just walk out? No, it's not that easy. I know because I remember growing up. Sometimes I'll say, no, if any small thing, I'll just walk away. What is there? It's not hard. Then my dad then would smile and laugh and say, you think it's that easy? Okay. Today I know better because I look at myself and say, okay, I can't walk away from my kids. I can't walk away from this life I have built. To start where? I've seen men that have walked away, miserable. You see old men going to the market or getting nannies to try and look after them. So it's tough. So you see people staying and being subjected to all this. Then it now turns into looking for coping mechanisms. So you see some men cope by the bottle, some men cope with alcohol, with smoking, or staying out late till maybe 10, 11 when they now sneak home and everywhere is cool and calm, everybody is sleeping.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Oh my
it's
goodness.
really, it's a sad one, really. It is.
I think, listening to you, first of all, listening to you, I think this is the first time it has occurred to me very clearly that the men can't leave. When we look at violence against women, normally the question is, why isn't she leaving? And we have even got statistics about how many times she will try to leave before she finally walks away from the relationship and restarts. But thinking about it from the man's perspective, which is what you've shared, it's like, wow, okay, so men actually have the same feeling in terms of their investment in the relationship that keeps them there. Because I'll be honest, in my limited thought on the subject and really looking at it from a women are independent point of view, I have never sat and thought about the emotional connection that men have to the relationships that they're in that keep them there. I think in my mind, I've always thought, men are the ones who jump around from woman to woman. So they don't actually like feel in the same way, like they get connected and want to work it out in that way, which is what would keep them in a violent situation, you know? And here, even as you talk about psychological violence, my assumption has always been, they figure it out. And when you touched on the coping mechanisms, I'm like, that's how we have been thinking they're figuring it out. We've not thought about that. Like a man who goes out and drinks a lot, or is always out late at night, or is out or starts, smoking heavily or taking drugs. That connecting that to a coping mechanism has not been a norm for me. I think it's been now see he's acting out. He's not behaving properly. See the way men are. That's the way that I would have looked at it before you just mentioned this. So yeah, you've opened my eyes to how we look at the way men are behaving and judge. We're so like in the space, I think I've been very judgmental of what men are like in relationships, never connecting that somebody's doing something because they're coping with something, and it's just not rebellious behavior. Yeah. Mm.
Funnily enough, even when they say, "Oh, a man, cheats, he can have multiple women." I always say one thing. Usually, when I sit with my friends, and I have friends who have extramarital affairs and the rest. When you ask them, if your wife were involved in this, how would you take it? There is the look in their face. You would know that they won't find it funny, because what does that tell you? They still treasure their wives, and sometimes, and most of the time, the cheating principle has to do with that 60-40 rule, whereby a man has 60% at home and he's seeing 40% outside, and he's going after the 40%, but he wants his 60%. Yes, you will call it, oh, you say, oh, can't he be disciplined and appreciate what he has? Yes, he can. A lot are, but some aren't, because at the end of the day, little things also matter. So you see a man saying, you see this thing you are doing, I do not like it. Most of the time, sometimes it's something as small as his favorite, maybe he keeps his phone or something in a particular place. And every time he comes and he's looking for it, and every time he finds out that it is put out of place. And every time you're like, oh, I'm sorry. It needles him. Then he sees someone outside who now gives him that illusion of, okay, he can drop his phone. He goes to stay with someone, he can drop his phone. I mean, you just use this as a scenario, yeah? Drop his phone here. He comes back, he meets it in the same place. He would appreciate the person and temporarily forget. But when the chips are down, he knows he has a home at home. Yeah? Because at the end of the day, what do men want? What causes all this? It's peace. It's funny, but it's peace. Every man wants peace. When he doesn't
And I
get
think every
peace,
woman wants peace as well.
where do they? I've talked with a lot of women, and they tell you that when the house is too peaceful, it's boring. They want to shake things up. It's crazy, and I'm like, what? Most guys don't want to shake anything up. We like the routine. We are just straight. When you tell a man 1 + 1, it's 2. He doesn't want to know. When you bend it, there's problem. But women want that a change in excitement. Again, more pressure. So you see a guy come back.
Woman, so you cannot really speak for us. You can't speak for us.
No,
My
but
brother,
I've hung around. I know, but I've hung around a lot of women. I've hung around a lot.
Because you are experienced. But one thing I think is the expectations on women, because when you speak, it's all about what you guys want. The men want peace. The men want this. Have you ever thought that there should be a corresponding whatever we want as women, so that there is peace in the home, or peace in any kind of relationship?
Okay, now let's go there. You sit, most of the time, you sit a woman down and say, okay, what do you want? You see a myriad of requests, yeah? Or, okay, let's say they say, okay, I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, you answer, all right, fine. I can do 3 or 4 of these at the moment. There's a clear agreement. You now see that, okay, 1 month down the line, the agreement now has scale. You now hear stories that, and you be like, but you were the one who agreed to this thing. You were the one who said this is how it should go. It brings me back to the way we are. Men are hardwired. We are a one-way street. You tell us this is how you want it. We say this is how you want it. You are sure? You say yes. You are sure? Okay, good. Then somewhere along the line, the person tells you no. You see, this way, I want it like this, but you should change it. And the guy is like, hey, how did this happen? Where did this come from? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, that is how we are wired as humans. We are dynamic.
Yes. Again,
we want one thing.
There should be that sit. Exactly. One thing next. There should be that sitting down to say, okay, let's discuss it and agree. Yes, that could happen. But we also have to measure with the realities of today. Things are tough. Those days you could easily switch. Oh, I don't want this. Okay, fine, I can adjust. These days it's not that easy. There are financial commitments involved in this thing. And like my discussant said, your money is your money. My money is our money. It's true. And unfortunately, that our money is shrinking every day.
It's shrinking, yeah.
So you see men getting frustrated, like, look, I can't handle this at the moment. The wife says, oh, you don't love me. Because you can't provide. And the man is like, really? Really? So again, where do men now? Frustration will set in. He now sees himself as less of a man because he feels that, oh, I can't make her happy. And a lot of men are in that position right now where they are like, I beg you, I have given up. I just can't. I can't cope. We are just there. Because in their mind, they're like, look, if I like, kill myself, jump from the building, buy the best, she's still going to harass me the next minute for something else. So why bother? So
And
you see,
sorry, Osa,
yes, go
sorry to
ahead.
interrupt you there. I'm like, that's the place I wonder for men. So there are many men who are in this space. You're frustrated, and now you're in your coping mechanisms, the way that you're coping with it. How do you get out of that space? Where do you look for help? What's available out there to help men go through that? Because it sounds like the beginning of slipping into depression.
Not just
And
depression, resignation. You just see
yes,
men. Hmm. So
walking around like zombies.
oh,
So
exactly. You see the
yes.
person. Okay. For instance, someone came to my house this morning. Yeah,
Mhm.
we were having a chat over drinks, and his wife called. She's pregnant in the family way, and he just said I should hold on, and she was like, I want this, I want this, I want this. What he's okay. When she was talking at the end, guess what he said? Could you please send a text with everything? Why? And when she said because he doesn't want trouble. Because right now, let me quote him in the Nigerian palace, guy, body the pepper. That's basically any small thing she lashes out. So I don't just want trouble. So he's just going to take his time to do what she wants and just stay out for a long time. That is his own way of coping. And I sat him down and I had to sit him down for like 10, 15 minutes and say, okay, look, guy, this is how you do it. This is what you do. You know, it's normal. You get over it. And he was like, how long? This was not how it was when she was pregnant for the first child. I said, yes, it is different. So, answering your question, how do men cook? This is one. He decides to stay out late. But thankfully, he met with me and, over drinks and we sorted it out. Sometimes a lot of men in my generation, let me use myself as an example. I have a confidant, an older, she's like a godmother to me. So I sit with her and talk, oh, this happened, how do I go through it? And the fact is she's brutally honest. My confidant is always, I think the best thing for men is have a female confidant, someone older, like a mother figure to you. Because a mother figure is someone who is mature. She has seen both sides. She has the experience and can talk to you and say, okay, oh, this is why. This is why. I've, I've, I've had issues in my marriage where I was thinking this way. She did this. And by the time I spoke, she looked at me and said, you know the problem? I said, no. She said, you were thinking of it like a rational problem, something you could solve. No, you can't solve it. And explained everything. And when I got home and applied her principles, there was peace. But how many people or how many men have this luxury or have this chance? Sadly, not many. Sometimes they are even scared to have this confidence because the wife will now be asking, who is that woman you are talking to? What is so? I was lucky because early on, in early years of my marriage, she was highly supportive of us, and so my wife knows her and sees her like a mother too. So I'm lucky in that way. Also, there's the unofficial beer parlor society, whereby you see men sitting down, drinking away their sorrows or chilling, and the man just vents out with one thing, and you see everybody dropping their opinion. And but that is not so good because, I mean, the advice you get is not 100% wholesome. Sometimes you might be lucky. You hear what makes sense, you apply, and it works. Then there's also the option of counseling. but it is. Let me use Nigeria as an example. It's not something a lot of people go to. There's the view that it is for the rich and the exclusive, which is not actually. Counseling is widely available, for here, but it's not something the average Nigerian man would carry his leg and tell the wife, okay, let's go for counseling. First of all, maybe you have to go to the counselor's house. There's no fuel, or you now calculate the fuel costs and all. And that is also extra pressure. And you have to keep going for repeated sessions, and the man is already like, oh, So again, the resources available are limited. So again, you see, some men cope with church, go to their pastors, their imams, their religious leaders for counseling. That also has his own drawbacks because the religious leader himself is a human being. He has his own challenges. You might come to him on the wrong day where he or she is going through her own thing. So there's also the fact some men also cope by becoming spiritual or religious. That also could also cause problems because when you now say, okay, there are some things you now want to stop, and your wife looks at you or your partner looks at you funny, like, okay, what's wrong with this one? It could also yield its dividend. But again, how many men can sit down with the current situation and say, okay, I want to focus and be spiritual? So really, resources are few. Resources are very, very, very few. Very few.
Yeah. One of the things that you said that, I'm like, wow, actually, even for women, it's having that mother figure, somebody who has lived life, gone through different experiences, makes all the difference in their ability to be able to help couples navigate during this sort of situation.
Yes.
And also, one of the things that's continuously becoming clearer and clearer as we're talking is, it's so simple. Women and men, we just have the same problems. Men in violent
Actually,
relationships have exactly the same problems as women in violent relationships. We
True.
go to the same places for advice. You talked about beer parlor advice, where people tell you advice that may or may not be helpful. And I'm like, yeah, as women, we'll go sit and talk to other women. And depending on the woman that you find, the advice that you get could make or break your home, because we've got all sorts of radical advice. Some people are sensible, some are not. And yes, I didn't think about also men going down the spiritual path. We joke about it sometimes as women, that you get to a certain age, your home is not okay, so now you go and you look for peace here. So we're just the same, but it's glaringly obvious that when it comes to resources, for women, we have places that we can run to, when you're in a very violent situation, there are shelters, there are people who will take you, there are those counseling centers just for women. There are
yes.
places we can run to, but for men, it really is a stark contrast in terms of where are men running to. And I'd like to just throw in something in terms of, do people believe men? Like, as a man, if you are going through physical, we can see, but the psychological abuse, when you try and tell somebody, I'm doing all these things and it's not working. You mentioned like your friend, it now becomes a behavioral issue associated with pregnancy. What if it was deeper than that, So I'd just like to ask from your perspective as a man, how people believe men. And I'd really
It's
also like
actually
to
very
know
difficult to.
what you think in terms of men and being believed.
That is hard. It's hard to believe, usually, because um, most of the time, men are physically more imposing. So it's very difficult to believe that sometimes, because you'll see, I've seen men that I'm about 6'2", yeah. He was, or he is, sorry, he's 6'3", 6'4". The wife is about a little shy above 5 feet, but she actually was violent with him a lot. So when he told us, everybody looked at him. I was like, you say? How? Yeah, you are twice her size. And when the truth came out, because again, his hands were tied, he couldn't hit. He said, I can't hit her. I won't hit her. And all of us were like, whoa, is this really happening? So it's very difficult to believe when a man tells you that, oh, I'm going through this at home, I'm going through that. Even when we believe, we say, hey, you as a man, guy, find a way around it. We are again expected to solve the problem. Somehow you figure it out. You have to be Superman, Batman, Dick Tracy, all in one again. So it's all stacked. I would say it's all stacked against us men. I know I'm sounding personal or I'm supporting my gender, but well, the truth is, it's very difficult to believe because the traditional abuse stories have always been against women. Personally, I grew up seeing it happen. Trust me, I personally grew up seeing it happen a lot. And it was the default. Once you hear they are beating someone, you just assume it's the woman.
It's a woman.
Yes. But now it is changing. And we are seeing that men are collecting beating on a regular. And you don't, even when sometimes when we hear, oh, the woman goes to report, oh, she's been beaten, and you investigate, you find out that it's actually not the case. So you see, and sometimes you see cases also where the woman is like trying, the man wants to walk away, the woman is saying no, and there's a scuffle, and again, yes, and everybody shouts, oh, yes, he has started again. He wanted to kill her. When we now sit down and look at the matter, like, well, he wanted to get out of the room. Unfortunately, a scuffle came and she fell. I'm not excusing men. Yes, we shouldn't beat anybody, but yeah, like I said,
I know in your heart, you mean to say some women deserve it, right?
But there's a limit to how you push someone and you expect him to react. And then the reaction might not be pleasant. We are seeing abroad a lot of Nigerian men are killing their wives. A lot. A lot. When you really go down to it and find out why, they're like, whoa, this happened, this is what was happening. And the man explodes. Again, let's go back, like I said, under a lot of stress, under a lot of pressure, it affects the psyche of people. Some people are not mentally fully sound or mentally mature enough to keep on coping with this pressure. He cracks and behaves irrationally. There will be one case, then it is now used to paint, like we say, stain all our white. By default, all men are demons. So how do we cope with this? It's difficult because it's
all right. So for clarity, we have cases where women may not even be physically violent towards their man. They will do other things that I would want to term material violence. I saw a video somewhere on Facebook where a woman was having an argument with her husband or a quarrel, however we want to put it. And what she did was to destroy his properties, his television. Some go as far as destroying the car, whatever they think is of value to the man. So this is how we should let people know that there are various ways that people can be violent towards them. It may not just be a physical hitting on their bodies. It could be something, a financial sort of abuse, a material sort of abuse, whatever it is that messes up with their psychological health, their mental health, is a form of abuse. So I want to ask a question to Valerie, because when we looked at Google the last time we had this conversation, we found out that abuse or violence against men is something that is prevalent in this part of the world. I beg your pardon, I think I mixed up with that of jungle justice. Okay, but we know that these things happen in our part of the world where men are really abused. In Kenya, do we have structures put in place for protecting men from this sort of abuse? Do you have any structures like that?
Very interesting question. So in my experience, there's one place, a hospital, although it's called a women's hospital, they have a gender violence recovery clinic. Where when I was in university a long time back, I had the privilege of doing internship there. And they did offer free healthcare for people who had experienced gender violence. And I would say there was about 5% of the files there that were men. So it gives just an insight of all the people who would come in. There was a small percentage of men who were coming in to get treatment and to get therapy. So that resource was available. And being gender violence, they would take whatever gender, male or female. Now, as we were preparing for this discussion and trying to find out what resources are there to support men who are going through violence, I can't say that I actually found a body or an organization that specifically caters for really men who are going through violence. I did find one or two Facebook groups that were there for men and men's rights, but nothing that specifically said, okay, if you're a man and you're experiencing this violence, get in touch with us here and we will support you. We will help you. We will get you removed from the home. We will link you for free sessions of therapy. Here is a hotline you can call. That sort of support, I wasn't able to find it. So I think there is a big gap. And also, yeah, just talking from now my personal experience, having tried to support a man who was going through serious violence in the home. It was psychological, material, financial, and physical. And you could see it. You know, when it's physical, there are scars. When you talk to the person, you can tell that things are not okay. And when we did go to make a police report, the police said, we do not get involved in domestic issues. We cannot come and help you. That was the first thing. And then second, they looked at him similar to Osaze asked and said, but how? You're a whole man. And those are the words that they use, like there's a half man or a quarter man. So they say you're a whole man. How do you allow a woman to treat you like this? And, you know, he tries to explain. And in the end, we were actually sent away. Yes, mocked him. We tried to make several police reports because I told him the most important thing, let's have this documented somewhere.
Yeah.
In case you ever need to get legal help, let there be documentation to you. And they would even refuse to take his statement. This is the police station. You go, you want to make a statement, they refuse. They're like, no. And then they were referring to him as, that one with home problems, he is back. So, I mean, that's the reality on the ground. And it is really sad because then the men, where do you go? In the end, the only place he found some solace was church counseling, and going to church and finding a counselor and just speaking to them and getting some advice on how to really cope. But most of the advice sends you back into the home. For women, when we go through violence and we go to seek advice, the first thing they do is remove you from the home
Yeah.
so that you are not there and you can then be safe. But for men, you're sent back. You go back
Back
and
to the lion's den.
yes, the lion is waiting. The lion is now even angrier because you
Definitely.
don't look for help. So I mean, there is really no support. And just one incident that I wanted to highlight in terms of what violence looks like, and in experience where women, understanding that men are held accountable for violence. A woman will be beating or assaulting the man, and while she's doing it, she's the one screaming help. So she's screaming help, help, as she is physically attacking this man, spitting on him, just being so violent in that way. And so what people hear on the outside is her screams for help, because the man is not going to scream for help, right? Men tend to not shout when they want help. They tend to be silent and take the assault in whichever form it's coming. So when people hear, because they can only hear, they can't see behind closed doors that there's a woman screaming, automatically the man is the one who is violent, and no questions asked, really no questions asked. So yeah, sorry, and a long answer to your question, but there's really no resources. And it's also from a mindset issue as a society. We need to look at how it is that we are viewing our men, that what expectations do we have of them? And, Osaze has really made it clear. The same problem we're facing as women is exactly the same problem the men are facing. So how are we going to support men so that they can cope? We don't need, in Kenya, we also have a problem where men are killing their wives. So it's a universal thing that we're both facing. Yeah, and normally when that happens, people wonder what happened. They say maybe he was just financially strapped. The economy is hard. But that deep dive into how was the relationship? What kind of relationship was he in? What drove him to the point that a man just wakes up and decides today is the day. Goodbye, children, goodbye, wife, goodbye, myself. They start with them and then they finish themselves. What is causing that?
Yeah.
There are discussions that need to happen around that.
We cannot fully exhaust this topic, so somehow we would have to wrap up this conversation. I think that we should do this very often because we know there are people who need to get resources in whatever form that we can provide, like someone to listen. It's very important for people going through this sort of abuse, be it a male, be it a female. Violence is violence, and it should not be entertained. I would say, like Valerie had hinted, there is a very big gap in this, a big gap that needs to be closed, that needs people to pay attention to. My younger sibling is coming up with something for women. I was asking her some days back, she was saying something about women who are not being taken care of by their men, who are going through maybe financial abuse, or it could be physical abuse, whatever it is, but they need support. So she's creating a group for them, a kind of a club, or a kind of, I think a club or something. So they can come together, they can get support from one another. So she's doing that. And just as she's doing that, there are other people doing that majorly for women who are those attending to men. This is a huge gap that needs to be addressed. So if anybody is watching this broadcast now, or maybe in the future, and you think there is something you want to do to contribute to your society, let us close this gap. Let's get someone or more people to come on to close this gap. Osaze, thank you so much for your input. You have been very, very steadfast with us. The support is huge, and we want to really appreciate you. One-on-one, we'll still come and we'll talk about these things, because I think you've been on the man's side. You know, you're supporting your gender. Yes,
I mean,
we'll have to support our own gender too. So we'll get you.
I agree.
Behind cameras to discuss all this. Thank you so much for coming on this chat. Yes, we will put our numbers on the comment section for everyone who wants to reach us to talk to us concerning these issues. We want to talk to you. We want to give you a listening ear. You can share with us. Dr. Osaro, thank you for the time. Valerie, thank you. Is there anything anyone wants to say to close this conversation today?
Yeah. Okay, for me, like you said, support centers for men in Kenya are great. They started something. In Nigeria, no, I don't think they are not. The only support center men use is Instagram. Most men will go to Instagram, social media, and say the outside of the story, receive more bashing. So maybe that also is something that needs to be looked into.
Yeah, and I would hint for the last time, it is not okay for anyone to remain in a physically violent environment. It's not okay. So some of this unstructured support you get from the church or elsewhere, where they tell you that man and wife should not divorce, divorce is a sin, whatever it is, please consider your life. If you are listening to me and you are going through any sort of violence physically, please try to get help. Try to stay away from this environment. Your life is much more important than whatever the societal expectations are for your marriage or for your life, whatever it is. So please get help. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for your contributions in the comment section. We'll look back at them and then we'll reply to your comments. Valerie, if it's okay, you can close.
All right. Yes. Thank you very much, Osaze. Thank you, Eno. Thank you, Osaro, for championing us in the background. And thank you, Boniface, as well. This is a topic that, goodness, topics that need a lot of time to explore. There's a lot to unpack in the topic. But I will reiterate what Eno said in terms of get support when you are in a relationship or a situation where you are being abused physically, financially, materially, emotionally, mentally. Any abuse is worth getting the help for. Now, what we at Table It are going to embark on is really identify and share with you any resources that we come across that are in place to support men. So if you have resources that are in place, please reach out to us and let us know, and we will share that information with our audience. And we're going to share our contact details in the comment section so that you're able to reach out to us. I'm based in Kenya, Osaro is based in the US, and Eno is based in Nigeria. So we really are seeking to reach a global audience. For those of you who have been with us throughout this entire talk, shared your comments, your questions, your encouragement, thank you very, very much. We do not take it for granted. We do appreciate you being with us. If you're watching us and you've not yet subscribed to any of our pages, please subscribe and you'll be able to get updates on our next coffee chatter. So we typically hold our coffee chatters on a weekly basis. There will be a short break for the festive period, and we will be back ready to go and shall announce when that shall be in the coming year. So just another mention to say thank you. And we look forward to seeing you at our next chatter. Remember to subscribe, to like our pages, and please, any comments that you have would be highly appreciated. So from our team, I guess we are wishing you a fantastic weekend, a very Merry Christmas, and a blessed New Year. So thank you.